Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. In this video we're gonna speak about the front lines in Kursk Oblast, also about the front lines in Ukraine and about the recent strike of Ukrainian drones on many of the Russian airfields. Let's go. Here you may see one of the latest updates from the Kursk Oblast. The information comes from the Institute for the Study of War. But even they have the delay for around a couple of days, and sometimes their information is not that precise, but we for sure may say that Ukraine has the attempt to go eastbound. As you may see, it's kind of the narrow attack vector, but nevertheless it was successful, penetrating the Russian defense lines. It is the second line of the Russian defense in this region, plus there are some of the small trenches as well. Maybe this narrow attack was done on purpose just to break through the Russian defense at some specific weak spot. The presence of the Ukrainian armed forces was recorded in Kamyshove, and Borky is already under Ukrainian control. But as you may see on the north, Ukraine is operating behind the Russian defense lines, so Russia doesn't have the trenches out there. They have to send their reinforcements to somehow slow down the movement of Ukrainian army. The bad situation for Russian army is ongoing in Korniva. There are fights in the city. Ukraine even uses mortars against the Russian soldiers. If we check out Korniva on Google Maps, it's the settlement which is divided by a river into two parts. So I predict that Ukraine might take at least this part under control. Here you don't see the city itself on the map, but you may see the river. So far the biggest city which Ukraine was able to take under control is Ruzzia. Today it officially was reported by the General Commander Syrsky to Zelensky that there are no any Russian soldiers left in Ruzzia. Syrsky reported about it this morning, and he also confirmed that Ukraine for the last 24 hours took more territory of the Russian Federation in Kursk. The Ukrainian army moved by around 3 kilometers into the Russian territory. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do daily on YouTube, you may also follow my Patreon. It's available just in the video description below. Thank you so much for your kind support and motivation. So now it looks something like that. Ukraine moved towards the east, towards north, and more to the north. Ukraine took two more villages under control, Spalne and Borske. More about the Ruzzia city, while Ukrainian journalists went to the place to film some sort of the report, basically showing that indeed the settlement is under Ukrainian control. Before, the Russian propaganda told that no, the fights are still ongoing in Ruzzia, the Russian army is resisting, Ruzzia is under the Russian control, but no, it is fake. Ruzzia was taken by Ukraine. So with today's report from the Ukrainian news, the Russian propaganda went to the silent mode about this particular Ruzzia topic. Well, what happened in Ruzzia that Ukraine moved towards the settlement and in a couple of days took control over the western part of the city. Russia, however, was controlling the eastern side, and in 2 more days Ukraine was able to move from the north and from the south, encircling the Russian group. Some of the Russians moved away, but many surrendered to Ukrainian army. So Ruzzia was actually taken around 2 days ago, but today we have the official confirmation. The Russian TikTok battalion commander Alodinov, however, refuses to believe that Ruzzia is taken by Ukrainian army, but at the same time he's not filming his TikToks from Ruzzia. He's located far from that area. They're just searching for some sort of the house which been damaged by the artillery shell, and they filmed the video with this brave TikTok commander. On the northern part, Ukraine moved quite far away, but again Russia launched a counter-offensive operation and they tried to resist against the Ukrainian strikes. But still Ukraine has the advantage in the Kursk region. For how long? Well, we're gonna see. Because Russia started to send some of the reinforcements to the Kursk region, and they've took the part of the forces from the south, from Kherson Oblast. Plus they're sending the troops from Kaliningrad Oblast of the Russian Federation. Kaliningrad is the remote region of Russia and it's locked between Lithuania and Poland, but it has the access to the Baltic Sea. Russia has their army deployed in the region, and now they urgently send it to extinguish the fire in Kursk Oblast. But the problem for Russia that Ukraine already broke through the defense line, so Russia needs lots and lots of the reinforcements to stop the movement of the Ukrainian army. Many more forces compared to what they would have to use in case they had kept those defense lines under control. So Russia wasn't really ready for the offensive operation from the Ukrainian side. So more or less the situation on the northeast looks like that. Near Kornivo, Ukraine has multiple of the attack vectors, AFUDRG means the Sabotage Reconnaissance Group. Ukraine sends the small group, sometimes with vehicles, far away from the actual battle zone to disturb the Russian logistics and communication. Those groups were spotted even 30 kilometers away from the battle zone. We see more and more photos taken by the Ukrainian soldiers in the settlements of the Russian Federation, obviously the Kursk Oblast. For example, this is Zaleshkansky village. It's the new village which Ukraine was able to take under control, and here you may see Почта России means Post of Russia, the main office of the village. According to the latest satellite images, Russia started to dig the trenches in the Kursk Oblast, and they are doing it quite far away from the actual battle line. It seems like they've took this very important highway as the defense line. It means that Russia expects the further movement of Ukrainian army, maybe even to the nuclear power plant, which in this case will be located right behind the new defense lines, but those new defense lines will be much worse compared to what Russia was able to build at the border. But Ukraine already has penetrated those. So potentially it may do the same stuff over here. The problem for Ukraine are the extended supply lines in this case, because the distance from the border to that highway is nearly 90 kilometers, roughly 53 miles, quite far away, so Ukraine is unable to attack with this extended vector. Ukraine needs to get more of the area under control for the successful security of the supply lines. That is what our guys are doing out there. One more issue are the Russian aircraft and the Russian gliding aviation bombs, but we have some sort of the good news about it. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry officially confirms that our soldiers were able to shut down the Russian Sukhoi 34 fighter bomber, which usually drops those gliding bombs. It happened in Kursk Oblast, so probably Ukraine uses some sort of the air defense systems, maybe on its own territory, which is bordering Kursk in Sumy Oblast. It is the first official confirmation of the Russian jet being shot down in Kursk. Ukraine has started to use its military aviation in Kursk. The Sukhoi 27's fighter jets were spotted in the Russian airspace. The aim for those is obviously to drop the guided aviation bombs to hit the Russian positions, and not only. Also, the Russian radars are the great trouble for Ukrainian forces, but Ukrainian jets might cope with that issue because Ukraine has the special anti-radar missiles provided to Ukraine by the United States of America. The last night was kind of extraordinary for Ukraine because it hit 4 of the Russian military airfields. 4, including Savasleika, which is located kind of far away from Ukraine, around 800 kilometers out from Ukrainian border. It's the place for the Russian transport aviation, for the helicopters and some of the fighter jets. Yeah, it is kind of the small airfield, you may say, but just look at the parking stand. This is the MiG-31, the fastest Russian jet. And looks like they have the tires on the top. Also, Russia tried to paint the one on the apron, looks ugly. Those airplanes are quite important for Russia because they use those as the launch platform for their Kinjal supersonic missile. But here we have the video from the airfield. Sorry about the quality of it. It was filmed on the phone by one of the local Russian soldiers. And this is the most interesting part. You can see the Ukrainian drone is flying down to the parking spot. And later on, kaboom. Judging on the video, I may say that it could be this parking spot. You see that Russia built some sort of the walls between the airplanes to avoid the damages of the airplanes by shrapnel in case of the drone strike. So I'm now waiting for the satellite images to confirm the losses for Russia in this military airfield, and something tells me that really drone hit at least one of the Russian MiG-31. Also, Russia just can't produce those airplanes, only modernize. They lost the Soviet time factories and logistics to continue to produce those. So even a single airplane loss matters. And as you may see on the screenshot from the video, there is something definitely looks like the MiG-31. Also, the Russian airfield of Voronezh was targeted the last night. The name of the airfield is Baltimore. For sure, there were some of the ground kabooms reported by the Astra service, and the locals took this sort of the photo. The Baltimore airfield is the main hubs for the Russian fighters bombers Sukhoi 34s. Also, it is within the ATACMS missile range. It means that if Ukraine had the permission to strike that airfield with ATACMS, Russia would have lost many of their airplanes that might carry the aviation gliding bombs, so there could be less troubles for Ukrainian army in Ukraine or in Russia, Kursk Oblast, but still our allies hesitate to give that permission to strike the Russian military airfields with ATACMS. As reported, there were 2 more strikes on 2 more Russian military airfields, but I am still waiting for the confirmation, some sort of the video, so for now I'll not speak about it without the real evidence, let's say. By the way, my friends, we have the update from the Deep State military map, and more or less it is correct. They published the update on the first day, then on the second one, and here you can see the gray area expanded quite far away. It is unusually wide, especially over here, nearly 20 kilometers, but you may see that the Ukrainian army is still kind of far away from the nuclear power plant. But judging from this vector, I think it's one of the major goals of Ukraine. As I've told you, Russia builds defense lines right at this highway and they have it under control, so they might send the reinforcements to protect this area. For Ukraine, it would be a very, very hard task to take this nuclear power plant under control, but Putin yesterday told about this possible threat. Yes, he said that Ukraine threatens the nuclear infrastructure of the Russian Federation. Now the distance to the power plant is nearly 33 kilometers, so it's around 20 miles. Kind of far away, especially we see that the pace of the Ukrainian army slowed down in this region, but I would say that Ukraine has the small chance to reach this power plant. It is important to exchange it for Energodar, for Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. About the front lines in Ukraine, well, Russia still hesitates to take their forces out from the eastern front lines. Yes, they take those from Kherson Oblast, but on the east, Russia still has the advantage, and according to the latest military map update, Russia moved towards Horodivka. This movement was spotted for the last 24 hours. Their aim is Pokrovsk city, and let's measure the distance from Pokrovsk to the front lines. Well, it's 14.28 kilometers, not that far away. Almost 9 miles, it's very close, but Ukraine has 1 more defense line, so hopefully it will help to stop the Russian attack. Also, Russia moved just a little towards Konstantinivka. It's not a huge advancement, but here Russia wants to go from the eastern side to take Vuhledar from the north, because from the south all of their attack attempts just failed. Well guys, I'm gonna keep you updated on situation in Ukraine and in Russia as you see. For now, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.